In this fifth chapter, we are going to spline the shoulders and the ends. With the rig selected, I will go into the top left UI and display the left arm. We can see our poses are a bit off as the shoulder is popping a bit at this moment. The shoulder controller is using a Euler rotation, which is supposed to be a locked Y-axis. So what I will do is some cleanup. I will get rid of all the Y rotation keys and work only on the X and Z axis. So I will currently need to revise more or less the whole positioning. First step will be to smooth out the animation by removing those flat keys. Here I'm making some wrong guesswork by offsetting the first keys by 12 frames since the movement of the shoulder is not symmetrical. The cycle is a full 24 frame for the shoulder because it will go back and forth on the 24 frames. So to fix it, I will just get rid of those newly created keyframes and I will try to average a bit the curve. I will watch at my animation and see if the movement is looking natural. As before, I want to have like 2 keyframes on each extreme pose to have a little offset in the animation, a little pause in putting some weight to the animation. I can then smooth out my curve and make sure that the first and the very last key are chained correctly. Working on the X curve, I figured that the shoulder was a bit too close to the neck in the middle of the cycle, and it makes like the character was a bit blocked or contracted, while I wanted him to be more relaxed during this run cycle. So as you can see, I'm moving the value way down. Then I'm mostly revising the timing by making the curve a little smoother and moving a bit my values on both Z and X axis till I'm getting something I'm happy with. And then I will work on the Z location axis to input an up and down motion to the shoulder. Since we are using IK, it's very handy because moving the shoulder won't move the position of the ends. Here I'm trying to find which axis I'll be working on, so it will be the Z axis, and once I figure it out, I will just clean all the keyframes and start from scratch with this Z position. From there I will mostly input a follow-through animation as we did for the head, for example, where the shoulder will be slightly offset in time compared to the torso position. And I will input some jiggling to the shoulder to input again more weight. So we'll have a slight sinusoidal shape of the curve on 3 or 4 frames. But I will be doing this later in the video once I've figured the movement of the ends. So currently I'm just polishing the Z position, and then I will slightly revise the rotation too. You always need to go back and forth into your animation until you reach something that looks, at least for you, great. Don't forget that the shoulder is supposed to drive the whole arm animation, so it will pull the arm up and down and back and forth. When you will be polishing the hands, there should be a slight offset between the hand movement and the shoulder movement. The hand curve were a bit messy, so I had a hard time to figure out which axis was doing what, so I've just cancelled the position on one frame, as you can see, so that by moving each axis I was able to guess which curve was moving the hand up and down or back and forth. One of the mistakes I've made in most of my Runcycle was to offset a bit too much the hand from the body left and right wise, so this time I've tried to keep the hand close to the body. When you are running in an athletic way, you will try to keep your hand close to the body so that you won't give that much resistance from your body to the air. So it's not about aerodynamical science here, but currently we have to think about those stuff. As a lot of things are happening position wise, I'm working on all the curve at the same time, and you can see that I'm really struggling with the position of the hands. Then I will add, as usual, some close keyframe to the extreme just to make the hand stay a bit in the air while moving forward and backward. As usual, the more weight will be in the part you are moving, the more you will have to play with those close keyframes. A very light character would have a more sinusoidal movement with shorter position changes in time. Then before I work on the hand's rotation, I've selected the pull target and mostly clean every axis and revise the position. So this is not a very complicated stage because you will guess very easily where the elbow should be placed. So what I do is that I try to find the critical axis, which will be the x-axis, and I will remove all the other keys and focus only on the x-axis position. It will be easier for me to get a nice curve to work on. Then I got back to the hand, and this time to focus on the rotation. So the problem was that I have too many keys and I wasn't able to figure out which axis was doing what because it was pretty messy, and you can see the W curve here that got extreme. So currently, as it swap from being at one value or around 1, it's like it's changing the pivot in the rotation. So this is something you have to, it's hard to figure out, but this is something you have to know simply. If your W curve got a bit crazy, then it will change how the curves are behaving, and maybe the Z-axis won't rotate that much and you will have to work on the W axis instead. So when I'm facing this kind of problem, and if I can't read correctly my animation, I just get rid of everything and I will work on the rotation of the hand from scratch by just moving the curves. Honestly, that's way easier than you would think. The movement of the hand will be mostly a follow-through animation based on the position of the hand, so its rotation will occur slightly later, and so it will be curved inward while moving backward and curved outward while moving forward. When I can't figure which curve I have to move to get to the right position, I will move the hand directly in the 3D view, and you can see that it changed the value of the W channel again pretty extremely, but that's fine since I have made my first position okay, and since I have less points, you can see the curves are more readable, so I will smooth them out. Now I can prepare the mirroring of the pose, so I will unhide every bone, the hand bone, the shoulder and the pole target. I will select them, select all the curve, making sure no curve is hidden, and then I will press Ctrl C in the graph editor. Then I will select the same controllers on the other side, clean every keyframe but the first, and press Ctrl Shift V. Now both animations are occurring at the same time, so I will duplicate all of these and move them by 24 frames, and they'll move the whole result by 12 frames before to have a mirror movement. This is something I've already done more in detail during the splining of the feet, so if you couldn't follow here, just get back to the feet video where I show this process. Whenever you want to mirror a single axis, just select the whole key, then scale all the key by -1 on the y-axis. Now I will just add some movement to the pectoral muscle, so it will be again just a follow through animation where they will be slightly offset in time compared to the torso position. Since I haven't blocked them out during the blocking stage, their curves are perfectly flat, and I will get rid of most of the keys and I will just work directly in the graph editor. This is something I oftenly do when working with follow through animation like tails or ropes or stuff that are hanging from your character. I also wanted to add some jingling effect, so what I will do is that on the lower position I will add a slight S-curve. This will input a fast up and down motion, which will be like a bouncy pectoral muscle. I will then also work on the X-axis position so that I again have this follow through animation, but not only up and down but also on the sides. Then I will just have to mirror the motion as we did for the hands, for the shoulder and for the feet by copying and mirror pasting the keys on the underside. Then just as usual offset them by 12 frames. That's gonna be it for this video. In the last video I will give you some inputs that weren't covered during this recording, so that I can show you a few additional tools and also show you how I have slightly improved this Runcycle after Luciano gave me some feedback on this very first animation. And this is one of the most important things. Just ask for feedback from the other. Even if they are not animators, they will have an eye on your animation and they may spot what you have never seen before.